Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Stardew Valley video. In this video, I'm going to be showing you the best pro tips on how to get better at fishing. Now, these are mostly professional tips and not more so information. So as always, if you do want to get information and get into the details of anything, make sure to go and see the wiki for any more information. So let's get into it. Okay, so basically, for my first tip, we're gonna need to go back and think of very hard fish. It might be a legendary fish, might not be a legendary fish, maybe just a hard fish in general. But basically, when you're in the middle of fishing, and the fish drops down to the bottom of the bar, and you need to go and catch that fish. But whenever you try and do that, your bar always bounces off the bottom of the screen. Well, with this trick, we can make it so that when your bar is right at the bottom of the screen, if you just tap X or whatever button, maybe like Y, right click button, either way, basically whatever platform you're using, use that button to basically nudge it up a wee bit. That then besieges the effect of your bar bouncing on the bottom and then slows it down before the fish then escapes and you don't get it. Okay, for tip number 2 is kind of building off the last one. So in the last tip I mentioned how once a fish goes to a certain point down below, once you try and catch that fish, you can bounce off the bottom of the screen. Well, that's also true for the top, but it just doesn't happen that often. If you accelerate your bar and bump off the top, it does the same thing. But while usually that's a hindrance and there is a few ways to stop that from happening, it can also be a help in the way that if a fish is quite far up the screen, then if you accelerate it downward, then you can bounce up to meet that fish. This is very hard to pull off, but if done right, it can make the difference between you catching the fish and you losing the fish, which is a difference you probably don't want to lose, you know? Okay, so along with that, what you're going to want to do as well is when you're in the middle of catching a fish, you're also going to want to try and tap X a lot when hovering over a fish with your green bar. Now, why you want to do this is it essentially freezes your bar and keeps it stationary over the fish. Because if you tap X a lot, very frequently, but not too powerfully, that'll keep on pushing your bar upward, but in such a way that it's going down at the same rate. So your acceleration and deceleration is going at the same way in which then your bar can stay still over the fish. As well as that, depending on where your bar is on the fishing bar, and by what I mean by that is, if your green bar is at the bottom end of the entire fishing bar, then you're gonna want to gauge whether or not the fish is a hard one to catch. And if it is a hard fish to catch, you're gonna want to keep the fish to the bottom or top of the green fishing bar. What I mean by this is basically, imagine you're trying to catch a fish and it's at the very top of the fishing bar, the fishing minigame in general. Basically, if you move your fishing bar up to meet that fish, you're gonna want to keep that fish to the very top of your green bar. And what this does is it allows that fish to go downward but still be in your green bar. If, for example, you put the fish in the middle of your green bar, you have longer to travel to meet that fish further down the minigame. But in this way, then, it gives you more time to react and lessens the time it takes to get down to that fish. Okay, so this new tip is quite a quick one, and essentially it's just that once you release your fishing rod and cast your rod into the water, you have a small time frame in which you can move the angle in which you cast your rod. Now, by just holding the button to cast your rod, that'll just fling itself into the water. But if you angle it, you can, for example, angle it into better water by moving up or down. You could angle it into fish bubbles, fish spot, just deeper water in general, and better points for better quality potential. Okay, so the next tip is in terms of skills. That your skills don't really matter. I'll let you choose whatever skills you want. But in terms of the enchantments for your rod, these do matter. Now, I'm still not gonna say exactly what you should choose, but there's definitely some you should not choose. For example, the auto hook enchantment. This automatically hooks fish or junk when they bite. However, it's just not useful. This won't help you within the minigame and won't help you to get better. So I would really recommend against this enchantment. Another bad one is the preserving enchantment. This one isn't as bad because it basically gives you a 50% chance that bait and tackle aren't consumed on use. This is a good one, but honestly I wouldn't recommend it. Now, the two good ones would be efficient, which grants you no stamina drain, and master adds an extra fishing level to the player while held. Now, honestly, I would say go for the master enchantment, but if you do want efficient, then I'm not going to recommend against it, but definitely don't go for auto hook or preserving. Okay, so another tip I do just want to talk about is that you should always be prepared. Now, a thing that's good to know is that when a fish is lower down in the minigame, it has a better chance of going up rather than down. Now, obviously, that's pretty common knowledge. Like, that doesn't take much thinking to understand. But if you really take that into mind and take that into consideration, that can prepare you for knowing whether or not you should stay where you are or be prepared to move around. Always try and look 2 steps ahead of where the fish is going to go so you can pinpoint what's going to happen and prepare for that. But in saying that, also prepare for if things don't go as you planned. Okay, so as I said in the start of this tutorial, this is not an informational guide in terms of just things to do with fishing. This is more tips instead of information. So as I said, go to the wiki if you need that information. However, if you do like this guide enough, I am willing to do a guide in which I say about types of food, types of skills you can use, and I might even look into trying to get the ultimate fishing setup to get the best possible and largest green bar so that it's nearly like the easiest thing possible to get a fish. I might even try and make it so that it's automatic or semi-automatic to an extent. But that's pretty much it for this video, so I do hope you've enjoyed. Let me know if you have enjoyed, and let me know if I've missed any tips perhaps. But until the next video, do hope you enjoyed, and goodbye.